Kim Woojin stepped off his sleek silver spacecraft onto the bustling metal floors of Vega Prime Station. The massive trading hub floated in deep space, bigger than most cities back on Earth. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy moved through its corridors like a living river of colors and sounds. Woojin adjusted his expensive black coat and checked his family timepiece. The golden device had been passed down through 5 generations of the Kim family. Its intricate gears sparkled under the station's bright lights, and ancient Korean symbols danced around its face. This wasn't just any watch. It was worth more credits than most people saw in their entire lives. The main marketplace stretched out before him like a carnival of alien wonders. Three-eyed Zephyrian merchants hawked glowing crystals that hummed with energy. Tall, blue-skinned Aqualians sold bottles of liquid starlight that bubbled and fizzed. Robot vendors clicked and whirred as they displayed weapons from distant wars. Woojin had come here to buy rare materials for his trading empire. His company supplied half the galaxy with precious metals and exotic compounds. Today's deal would make him even richer. But money wasn't everything. The timepiece on his wrist reminded him that family legacy mattered most. The crowd pressed round him like a living thing. Alien voices chattered in dozens of languages. Steam hissed from food stalls selling creatures Woojin couldn't even identify. The air smelled of ozone, spices, and something metallic that made his nose wrinkle. A group of tall, insect-like mantoids clicked past him, their forearms carrying strange glowing orbs. Behind them, a family of Frey Burlings argued loudly over the price of some purple fruit. Woojin smiled. He loved the chaos of these trading stations. It reminded him why humans had spread across the stars. Then he felt it, the lightest touch against his wrist. Woojin's hand moved to his timepiece, but found only empty air. His heart skipped a beat. The watch was gone. 5 generations of family history had vanished in an instant. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd, searching for any sign of the thief. There, a flash of movement near a towering pile of cargo containers. A small figure in torn brown clothes darted between the legs of a massive, elephant-like Titan trader. Woojin pushed through the crowd, his expensive shoes clicking on the metal floor. The figure moved like water, slipping between aliens twice her size. She was human, definitely human, but so small and quick that she seemed to melt into the shadows. The station security booth stood nearby, manned by a lazy-looking slugoid whose green skin glistened under the lights. "Officer," Woojin called out, "I need help. Someone stole my human street rat." The slugoid gurgled without looking up from his data pad. "Happens every day. File report." "Maybe we find it in few weeks." Woojin's jaw tightened. This isn't just any theft. That timepieces is what? The slugoid's multiple eyes finally focused on him. "You humans always think your junk is special. Gold probably threw it in recycler already. Run them." Other alien security officers laughed. A beetle-like chitin clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Humans and their shiny toys," he buzzed. "Maybe next time keep better watch." But Woojin had caught another glimpse of the thief. She was tiny, maybe 10 years old, with tangled black hair and clothes that looked like they'd been sewn from scraps. Her movements weren't random, though. They were practiced, careful, deliberate. Something about the way she moved triggered a memory deep in Woojin's mind. Those quick, precise steps. That ability to vanish into a crowd. He'd seen someone move like that before. But where? His bodyguards finally caught up to him, their heavy boots thundering on the deck. "Sir," the lead guard panted, "we lost sight of you in the crowd." "What happened?" "Someone took grandfather's watch," Woojin said quietly, still staring in the direction the girl had gone. "We'll contact station security immediately." the guard replied, pulling out his communicator. "No." Wujin held up his hand. "The aliens won't help. They think all humans are worthless. Then what do you want to do, sir?" Wujin looked toward the darker sections of the station. Where the girl had disappeared, most wealthy traders would write off the loss and buy a new timepiece. But this wasn't about money. Something in that girl's desperate eyes had called to him. "I'm going after her myself." He decided. His bodyguards exchanged word looks. "Sir, the lower levels are dangerous. Gangs, smugglers, worse things down there. That little girl survives down there every day," Wujin pointed out. "I think I can manage." He started walking toward the maintenance lifts that led to the station's forgotten levels behind him. His guards hurried to keep up, marching about stubborn bosses and dangerous missions. But Wujin's mind was elsewhere, trying to remember where he'd seen those movements before. Something told him this theft was more than it appeared to be. The maintenance elevator groaned as it descended into the depths of Vega Prime Station. Wujin's expensive clothes felt out of place in the rusty metal box that reeked of oil and something far worse. His bodyguards shifted nervously, hands moving toward their weapons as strange sounds echoed from the darkness below. Level 12. The automated voice announced in a crackling tone. "Warning, this sector is not maintained by station management. Enter at your own risk." The doors slid open with a screech, revealing a world Wujin had never imagined existed. Dim emergency lights cast eerie shadows across broken walkways and leaking pipes. The air was thick with smoke from illegal cooking fires, and the acrid smell of recycled oxygen pushed beyond its limits. Wujin stepped into the corridor, his polished shoe splashing in puddles of unknown liquid. Immediately, he spotted movement. Ahead, the flash of torn brown fabric disappearing round a corner. The girl was fast, but she was leaving a trail. "Oh no," he called out, surprising himself. He didn't even know her name yet, but somehow the sound felt right. A distant laugh echoed back, high and musical despite the harsh surroundings. She was playing with him, leading him deeper into her world. The chase began in earnest. Wujin followed the girl through twisting maintenance tunnels barely wide enough for his shoulders. She moved like liquid shadow, her small size letting her slip through gaps that forced him to crawl. Behind him, his bodyguards struggled to keep up, their heavy equipment clanking against the metal walls. "Sir, we're losing her." One guard panted into his comm unit. "No," Wujin replied, studying scratch marks on a ventilation grate. "She wants us to follow. Look, she's leaving signs, sure enough." Tiny handprints in the dust marked her path. A torn piece of fabric hung from a sharp edge. She was good at hiding, but she was also leading them somewhere specific. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that took Wujin's breath away. What had once been a cargo bay now housed a hidden city. Hundreds of makeshift shelters built from scrap metal and plastic sheeting covered the floor. Cooking fires sent smoke curling toward the ceiling, where jury-rigged ventilation systems wheezed and rattled. This was where the forgotten humans lived. Families huddled around small fires, sharing thin soup made from protein paste and whatever vegetables they could grow in hydroponic boxes. Children with hollow eyes played with toys made from discarded electronics. Elderly people wrapped in blankets that had seen better days told stories of Earth to anyone who would listen. Wujin's heart clenched as he watched a mother trying to comfort her crying baby. The woman's clothes were patched and repatched, but she sang a lullaby in perfect Korean. The melody was one his own mother had sung to him decades ago. "She went that way," her voice said. Behind him, Wujin turned to see an old man pointing toward a cluster of broken spacecraft hulls that had been converted into homes. The man's face was withered and scarred, but his eyes held dignity. "Thank you," Wu Jin said, bowing slightly. "What is this place?" "Home," the old man replied simply, "for those who have nowhere else to go." As Wu Jin moved deeper into the settlement, he began to understand the scope of what he was seeing. These weren't just homeless people. They were refugees. Survivors of destroyed colonies, former crew, members of ships that had been scrapped, families who had lost everything to alien bureaucracy and prejudice. Near a cluster of damaged escape pods, he watched a group of human men loading cargo onto anti-gravity sleds. Their supervisor was a massive, crab-like crustacean who clicked his claws impatiently. "Faster! Meat bags!" the alien growled. "Ship leaves in 1 hour. Miss deadline. No payment." The humans worked desperately, their faces drawn with exhaustion. Wu Jin realized they were moving toxic waste, the kind of dangerous materials that required protective sui. Teeth, but these workers had no protection except cloth masks that wouldn't stop anything. "That's illegal," one of his bodyguards whispered. "Down here, there are no laws," Wu Jin replied grimly. A small tug on his coat made him look down. A human boy, maybe 8 years old, stared up at him with curious eyes. The child's clothes were too big, probably hand-me-downs from older siblings. "You're looking for the Shadow Girl," the boy said matter-of-factly. "Shadow Girl? Oh no. She's the best at hide-and-seek. She knows all the secret places." The boy pointed toward a section of the settlement where broken starship engines had been stacked like metal mow. "Antennes. She's probably watching you right now." Wu Jin followed the boy's gaze and caught a glimpse of movement between the engine blocks. A pair of dark eyes peered at him from behind a cracked plasma conduit, then vanished. "Why doesn't she just run away?" Wu Jin asked the boy. "Where would she go? This is the only safe place for humans on the whole station. Up there," the boy pointed toward the ceiling, "the aliens just see us as pests. Down here, we take care of each other." The words hit Wu Jin like a punch to the gut. He'd been living in the upper levels of the galaxy, making deals with alien corporations and thinking himself successful. But down here, his own species was fighting just to survive. A crash echoed through the chamber as someone knocked over a stack of metal plates. Wu Jin saw Hana dart between the engine blocks, her small form disappearing into shadows that seemed to welcome her. The hunt continued, but now it felt different. This wasn't about recovering stolen property anymore. This was about understanding a world he'd never known existed. The chase ended in a place that time had forgotten, deep in the station's belly. Past the humming power cores and leaking water recyclers, Wu Jin found himself in a massive cargo bay that hadn't seen use in years. Broken crates scattered the floor like ancient tombstones, and sparks occasionally flew from damaged electrical panels that cast dancing shadows on the rusted walls. Hana stood in the center of it all, no longer running. Her small frame was silhouetted against the glow of a cracked viewport that showed the endless stars beyond. She held something golden in her hands, turning it over and over like a precious prayer. "You can stop chasing now," she said without turning round. Her voice was older than his, carrying weight that no child should bear. Wu Jin approached slowly, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. His bodyguards stayed back, sensing this was a moment that didn't need their protection. "I just want my family's timepiece back," Wu Jin said gently. "It's very important to me." Hana finally turned, and Wu Jin saw tears streaming down her dirt-stained cheeks. "It's important to me too," she whispered. "It's all I have left of him." She held up the golden timepiece, and Wu Jin's breath caught in his throat. In the dim light, he could see details he'd missed during the theft. The ancient Korean symbols weren't just decorative. They told a story, his family's story, but there was something else. Something that made his heart pound. "Let me see it," he said, extending his hand. Han-Na clutched the watch tighter. "You'll take it away. Everyone always takes things away." "I promise I won't," Wu Jin said, and meant it. "I just need to look at something." Reluctantly, Han-Na placed the timepiece in his palm. Wu Jin turned it over, and there it was, engraved. On the back in tiny letters that had been worn smooth by years of handling, the Kim family seal. Yes, but beneath it, newer scratches that spelled out words in Korean. "For my brave little star, your appa." Dong-ho, the timepiece slipped from Woo-jin's fingers, clattering on the metal floor. The sound echoed like thunder in the silent bay. "Dong-ho," he breathed. "Kim Dong-ho was your father." Han-Na nodded, fresh, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You knew him." Woo-jin's legs felt weak. He sank to his knees, staring at this small girl who carried his brother's eyes and his mother's stubborn chin. "He was my brother. My little brother." The cargo bay seemed to spin round him. 3 years ago, Captain Kim Dong-ho had taken his deep space exploration vessel, the Morning Star, on a mission to chart new hyperspace routes. The ship had simply vanished one day, lost in the vast darkness between stars. Search teams found nothing. No wreckage, no distress signals, no survivors. "But you're here," Wu Jin said, reaching out to touch Han's face. "You're alive. That means—" "Appa's ship got attacked," Han-Na said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Big alien warships came out of nowhere. They had these scary red symbols on their hulls, like angry eyes. Appa put me in an escape pod with this watch. He said it would help me find family if something happened to him." Wu Jin pulled Han-Na into his arms, and she didn't resist. She was so small, so fragile. Yet she'd survived alone in the depths of space for 3 years. The pod drifted for weeks. Han-Na continued, her words muffled against his shoulder. "I ate the emergency rations and drank recycled water that tasted like metal. When I finally got picked up, it was by alien salvagers who didn't care about one more human orphan." The story poured out of her like water through a broken dam. How she'd been sold to various alien employers who worked her like a machine. How she'd escaped and found her way to the refugee settlement in Vega Prime's forgotten levels. How she'd learned to steal and hide and survive by becoming invisible. "I kept the watch hidden," she said. "Sometimes I'd look at it and remember Appa's voice. He used to tell me stories about Earth, about our family, about the Kim ancestors who were explorers and warriors." Wu Jin's chest tightened with grief and rage. His brother, brilliant, brave Dong-ho, who'd dreamed of mapping the stars, was gone. But his daughter, this incredible little survivor, was here in his arms. "I saw you in the marketplace," Han-Na continued. "You moved like Appa did, confident and proud, and when I got close, I saw your face. You have his eyes. I knew you had to be family. So you took the watch to get my attention." Han-Na nodded. "I was scared you wouldn't believe me. But I thought if you chased me, if you really cared about the watch, maybe you'd care about me too." Wu Jin held her tighter. "I'm so sorry, Han-Na. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. I'm sorry you had to survive alone. I'm sorry about your father. Is he really gone?" she asked, though they both knew the answer. "Yes," Wu Jin said gently. "But he gave you something more valuable than this watch. He gave you courage and intelligence, and the strength to survive until you could find family again." Round them, the broken cargo bay seemed less empty now. The sparking panels looked like tiny fireworks celebrating a reunion that had taken 3 years to happen. The stars outside the viewport weren't cold and distant anymore. They were witnesses to a promise kept. What happens now? Hanna asked. Woojin stood, lifting her easily in his arms. Now you come home with me. You're Kim Hanna, daughter of Captain Kim Dong-ho, and granddaughter of Master Kim Sun-woo, who built this timepiece. You're not alone anymore. The golden watch lay forgotten on the floor. But neither of them looked back. They had found something far more precious than any family heirloom. They had found each other, back in the refugee settlement. Hanna led Woojin to her secret hideout, a cramped space between two broken starship engines were. She'd built a nest of salvaged blankets and electronic components. What Woojin saw there made his blood run cold. The walls were covered with pictures, documents, and data chips ranged like a detective's investigation board. Photos of destroyed human ships. Lists of missing crew members, alien shipping manifests. With suspicious cargo loads, Hanna had been gathering evidence for 3 years, piece by piece, using her small size and innocent appearance to access places no adult could reach. I started collecting this stuff after I escaped from the Nexai labor camp, Hanna explained, pointing to a photo of a massive alien industrial complex. The gods there spoke freely around us kids. They thought we were too stupid to understand. She pulled out a data chip and plugged it into a battered tablet she'd built from scrap parts. The screen flickered to life, showing shipping records that made Woojin's hands shake with anger. Look at this manifest, Hanna said, her finger tracing lines of alien text. Cargo, biological specimens for industrial labor. Destination, various mining colonies. But I know what those biological specimens really are. They're humans. Families like mine. The records showed hundreds of transactions, human cargo being shipped across the galaxy like livestock. Men, women, children, all reduced to inventory numbers in an alien database. The Covenant runs it all. Hanna continued, they're not just one species. They're a group of different aliens working together. The red-eyed Krillians provide the warships. The slug-like Nexari run the labor camps. The insect mantoids handle the paperwork and make it all look legal. Woojin studied the evidence with growing horror. How did you get all this? Nobody notices a dirty human kid. Hanna said with a bitter smile, I learned to pick locks from old Jinho in the settlement. I taught myself to read alien languages by watching their computer screens. When they needed someone small to crawl into ventilation systems or squeeze through cargo spaces, they used me. She showed him video recordings she'd made with a tiny camera built into what looked like a broken toy. The footage showed Covenant officials discussing their operations with casual cruelty that made Woojin's stomach turn. The beautiful part, a Krillian commander was saying in the recording, is that humans breed so quickly. Even if we eliminate entire colonies, there are always more ships to capture, more families to separate, more workers to process. A Nexari officer gurgled with laughter, and their governments are too weak to retaliate. They file complaints with the Galactic Council, who do nothing because we have the mining rights to have the systems in this sector now. Fast-forwarded through hours of similar conversations. They've been doing this for decades. She said, my father's ship wasn't the first, and it won't be the last unless someone stops them. Woojin felt ashamed of his previous ignorance. While he'd been making comfortable trades in the upper levels of civilization, his own people had been suffering in the shadows. His wealth, his status, his business connections, none of it had protected his brother or helped these refugees. Why didn't you take this evidence to the authorities? He asked. Hanna's laugh was hollow. Which authorities? The Galactic Council is paid off. Station security considers humans disposable. Even our own Earth government is too far away and too busy with their own problems to help colonies on the frontier. She pulled up another file, a list of human settlements that had gone quiet in recent years. Mining colonies, research stations, trading outposts, all officially listed as communication failures or voluntary relocations. The truth was much darker. But you're different, Anna said, looking at her uncle with hope in her eyes. You have money, ships, connections. People listen to wealthy traders. Wu Jin nodded slowly. His trading company had contacts throughout the galaxy. His cargo ships could reach systems the Covenant thought were safely isolated. His communication networks could spread information faster than any government bureaucracy. What do you need? He asked. Hanna's eyes lit up with fierce determination. First, we need to rescue the prisoners. I know where 3 labor camps are located. Here. She pointed to star charts covered in her handwritten notes. We need first ships and people. Willing to fight. I can get ships, Wu Jin said. And I know some former military pilots who owe me favors. Second, we need to expose everything publicly. Not just to governments, but to ordinary people across the galaxy. Make it so big that the Covenant can't cover it up. Wu Jin thought about his media contacts, his business partners, the news networks that covered galactic trade. I can make that happen. Third, Hanna said, her voice becoming hard. We need to make them pay. Not just the foot soldiers, but the leaders. The ones who gave the orders to destroy my father's ship and tear apart thousands of families. The uncle and niece looked at each other across the evidence-covered hideout. Outside, the sounds of the refugee settlement continued, children playing, adults working, families trying to survive another day. But inside this small space, something larger was being born. How long will it take to organize? Wu Jin asked. 2 weeks to get the rescue teams ready. Hanna calculated. Another week to coordinate the media release. The Covenant won't see it coming. Wu Jin stood up, his expensive clothes now dusty and torn from crawling through maintenance tunnels. But he felt more purpose than he'd ever experienced in his comfortable life of profit margins and trade negotiations. Then let's get started, he said. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you mess with human families. Hanna smiled. The first real smile Wu Jin had seen from her. Appa would be proud. She whispered. He would be. Wu Jin agreed. And he'd be amazed at how brave his daughter turned out to be. The reckoning was about to begin. 2 weeks later, the galaxy changed forever. Wu Jin's fastest courier ships launched simultaneously from 12 different star systems, each carrying identical data packages. The synchronized release was Hanna's idea. Hit everywhere at once so the Covenant couldn't suppress the information. On the bridge of his flagship, the Silver Phoenix, Wu Jin watched as news networks across human space began broadcasting the evidence. The holographic displays showed shocked reporters struggling to comprehend the scope of the conspiracy. This is Galaxy News Network, announced reporter Minho Park from the Core Worlds. We're receiving confirmation that the missing colony ship New Soul was not lost to engine failure as reported, but was attacked and its 3,000 passengers sold into slavery. Similar broadcasts erupted across dozens of systems: the refugee camps, the slave labor operations, the systematic destruction of human ships, all of it laid bare for the galaxy to see. Hanna stood beside her uncle, no longer the ragged street child from Vega Prime's depths. She wore clean clothes now, but her eyes still held the steel that had kept her alive for 3 years. In her hands, she clutched the golden timepiece that had brought them together. The Krillian High Command is denying all allegations, another reporter announced. However, leaked communications suggest panic in Covenant leadership circles. They're scared. Hanna said with satisfaction. Good. They should be. The response from human colonies was swift and overwhelming. Within hours, Defense fleets that had been scattered and uncoordinated began moving toward predetermined rally points. Mining worlds that had accepted Covenant protection suddenly found their courage and expelled. Alien overseers. The communication rays aboard the Silver Phoenix crackled with reports from across the galaxy. Admiral Kim, came a voice from the frontier world of New Bison. Our militia fleet is ready to join the liberation effort. Colonel Park reporting from the Andromeda Mining Consortium. Another voice added, we've secured 6 former labor camps and freed over 2,000 prisoners. Wu Jin had used his trading contacts to coordinate the largest human military operation in centuries. Cargo haulers converted to troop transports. Mining ships retrofitted with weapons. Even luxury yachts pressed into service as communication relays. Sir, his ship's captain reported, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. The holographic display shimmered, revealing an elderly woman in the blue uniform of Earth's Space Defense Force, Mr. Kim. This is Admiral Lee Sunmi. I want to personally thank you for bringing this information to light. Earth Command is mobilizing the 3rd Fleet to support liberation operations. Wu Jin bowed respectfully. The credit belongs to my niece, Admiral. She gathered the evidence that made this possible. Admiral Lee's stern expression softened as she looked at Hanna. Young lady, you've done something remarkable. Your father would be proud. Hanna stepped forward. Her small frame dwarfed by the bridge's massive displays. Admiral, there are still thousands of prisoners in Covenant camps. We can't stop until they're all free. We won't stop, Admiral Lee promised. Every human ship in the galaxy is converging on Covenant territory. They picked the wrong species to enslave. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of coordinated strikes. Human fleets emerged from hyperspace at strategic points throughout Covenant space, their weapons blazing as they targeted slave camps, processing facilities, and command centers. The Krillian warships that had seemed so terrifying when they attacked. Isolated human vessels found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. Decades of preying on defenseless civilians had made them overconfident and unprepared for a real combat. On Nexus Station, where the Nexari had run their slave trading operation, human Marines stormed the facilities and freed hundreds of prisoners. Many were families who had been separated for years, children who barely remembered their parents, spouses who thought they'd never see each other again. Han now watched the reunions on the tactical displays, tears streaming down her face. They're going home, she whispered. They're all going home. The Covenant's response was swift but desperate. Their fleets engaged human forces in massive battles that lit up star systems with weapons fire. But humanity had found something the aliens had never expected. Unity born from righteous anger. The Krillian 6th Fleet is retreating from the Outer Rim, reported Captain Dongwu from the heavy cruiser Incheon. They're abandoning their bases and falling back to core systems. Similar reports flooded in from across the battle zone. The Covenant's empire, built on cruelty and exploitation, was crumbling under the weight of human determination 3 days after the operation began. Wu Jin stood with Hanna on the observation deck of Vega Prime Station, the refugee settlement. In the lower levels was nearly empty now. Most of its inhabitants had been reunited with family or offered new homes on human worlds. Through the massive viewport, they watched as the Earth Defense Force 3rd Fleet arrived in formation. Hundreds of ships, from massive dreadnoughts to sleek destroyers, filled the space round the station with their reassuring presence. Look, Hanna said, pointing to the lead ship. That's the Kim Dong-ho. Wu Jin's breath caught. The newest ship in the fleet bore his brother's name, honoring the captain whose death had sparked the liberation of thousands. It was a beautiful vessel, its hull gleaming with the proud symbols of Earth, Apples flying. With the stars now, Hanna said softly, but his name will protect other families. News feeds showed the final collapse of the Covenant's power structure. Alien leaders who had profited from human suffering were being arrested by their own people, who had finally learned the truth about their government's crimes. This is Galaxy News Network with a special report, announced the same reporter who had first broken the story. The Galactic Council has issued a formal apology to humanity and established a reparations fund for victims of the Covenant conspiracy. Additionally, new laws have been passed guaranteeing the rights of all sentient species and establishing harsh penalties for slavery and species-based discrimination. Hanna held up the golden timepiece, its ancient gears catching the light from the nearby star. 5 generations, she said. This watch has been through 5 generations of our family. And now it's starting the 6th. Wu Jin put his arm round his niece's shoulders. What do you want to do now? You can have anything you want. A home on Earth, the best education, a life of comfort. Hanna looked out at the human fleet. At the liberated station, at the galaxy that would never be the same. I want to help other lost children find their way home, she said. There are still orphans out there, still families separated by war and cruelty. I want to use what I learned to help them. The Hanna Foundation, Wu Jin said, the name coming to him naturally, will set up search and rescue operations, family unification services, whatever it takes, Hanna smiled. The same brave smile that had carried her through 3 years of survival. And every child we help will know that no matter how far apart families are scattered, love can always bring them back together. As they watched, the Kim Dong-ho fired its engines and began moving toward the outer system, leading a convoy of ships carrying freed prisoners back to human space. The sight was beautiful and heartbreaking and hopeful all at once. The beggar girl who had stolen a watch had become the catalyst for the greatest rescue operation in galactic history. The timepiece that had started as a theft had become a symbol of hope that would inspire generations. Humanity had found its strength not in superior technology or military might, but in the simple truth that families belong together. The ND.